I'm Kevin Michalowski, editor of Concealed Carry Magazine. You shouldn't stab someone if you're using a knife for self-defense. I'm back here again with Mike Janis. Mike, thanks for coming in.
How you doing, Kevin?
Now, we've talked about using a knife for self-defense and making it part of your everyday kit, but a lot of people think that you grab a knife and you stab somebody in the chest and party's over. That's not really how it works, is it?
It's not. Like anything else in self-defense, the primary thing you need to be concerned about is stopping power. You're trying to stop the threat. So first of all, you need to think about when would you bring a knife into play. Obviously, you have to be justified in doing that. So you're facing a situation where you're really convinced, you really believe that you're in fear for your life or in fear of grievous bodily injury. Just like with a firearm, that's where you cross the line.
Using a knife is deadly force.
Exactly. So definitely, you've crossed that line to lethal force. At that point, what you need to think about is in what context is a knife appropriate as far as the tactical aspect of it, meaning how would you apply it? Obviously, it's going to be against a contact distance weapon. If he's got a firearm, you have a knife, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, then get out of there.
Exactly. So using the knife against somebody who's armed with some other contact distance weapon, stick, brick, bottle, board, baseball bat, whatever it might be, that's where it's appropriate. But now what you have to think about is how does the knife actually stop? And it's very different than what you would do with a firearm. With a firearm, if you're trying to hit me in the head with a tire iron, I take the firearm, I shoot center mass. What I'm trying to do is basically cause enough shock, ideally affect your central nervous system to where I shut down your entire body so that arm stops swinging.
Yep.
That's the basic process. Trying to do that with a knife, if I'm stabbing you in the torso while you're hitting me in the head, it's a net loss.
Yeah, I'm probably going to win that scenario.
Exactly. It's just not going to work because the knife doesn't deliver enough shock. It doesn't create enough shock quickly enough to be able to shut you down that way. So what we look at is what is the real threat? The weapon in your hand.
Always the hands.
Right. And when you attack me with something, if you're swinging something at my head, what you're giving me is the best target I could possibly hope for. The way that this thing works, the muscles of your forearm, the flexor muscles here, pull on the tendons in your wrist, and that's what allows your fingers to close. So for you to be able to grip any kind of weapon in your hand, all this stuff needs to be connected. Use the knife to disconnect it, what we call defanging the snake. In the Filipino martial arts, the arm is the snake, the weapon is the fang. So by cutting that, basically you disconnect that mechanical connection of muscle, tendon, and bone, the hand opens, the weapon falls to the ground, and that's the quickest way to end a fight.
And the guy can no longer hold the weapon or use it against you, probably at the very least going to give you time to step back and reassess and reevaluate.
Exactly. You're solving the problem at its root, first of all. And also as far as using the knife, one of the things we need to be concerned about from a legal standpoint is the legal system is also biased against knives. And the reason for that is most of what the legal system sees is the felonious use of knives, knives used as weapons against innocent people. So even though you may be fully justified in everything you do in self-defense, the way I like to say it, your work product, if you will, should look different than what a criminal would produce.
Right.
So the idea of somebody comes in with 50 stab wounds to his torso and you say, well, that was self-defense because he tried to hit me in the head with a tire iron, versus the idea of somebody hitting you in the head with a tire iron, you cut down to the bone, he drops the weapon, you back off, even if the police show up and they have no idea what happened. It's much easier for you to articulate the fact that you were the good guy in that scenario and you were forced to defend yourself, and you did so not only in a way that was effective, but also something that was legally justifiable and something that's going to keep you out of prison in the long run.
And I think you're using the minimal amount of force in that case. If you're making one cut or maybe two cuts at the most, and then you're stopping and stepping back to assess, you'll be able to defend, you'll be able to articulate to the investigating officer, this is what I did, and it stopped him, and then I called you guys and come here and help.
Exactly. And one thing that people also forget, they'll think about, well, thrusting is still going to be the most effective thing that I can do because historically that's always the way that it worked. Well, historically, when you look at the knives that people were thrusting with, they were much bigger. So when you think of a full-size Bowie knife, somebody, a soldier on the battlefield with a dagger or something like that, you've got some serious weapons that you're working with. What we're going to be carrying, what we'll be using to defend ourselves, are things that we can carry legally based on the laws in our area. So if you're carrying something with a 3-inch blade, it has a very different wounding effect than what you would have with a blade that's a foot long. So especially if you're looking at a 3-inch blade against a 300-pound attacker, the idea of stabbing into the torso, it's going to take a long time for that to have any effect. But a 3-inch blade, the arm of that 300-pound person, cutting that forearm to the bone, still no problem.
So 2 target areas, forearm, where else?
Well, actually 3. So what we have is, if we're concerned about somebody wielding a weapon, first of all, the grip on the weapon. Secondly, bicep, tricep, because the bicep bends the elbow, allows you to chamber and strike. Tricep extends the elbow, that's what allows you to hit. So the coordinated motion of that weapon-wielding arm is based on those two muscle groups. But then the real go-to that we look at is the quadricep. So basically, the thigh, specifically the front of the thigh, the first few inches right above the knee.
Okay.
What that does is that extends the knee joint, and that's what allows you to support weight on that leg. If you can cut that and drop somebody,
Puts them
even
right
if
to the ground.
Exactly, mobility kill is
Yeah.
what we call it. So at that point, you have somebody who they're stationary. Even if they still have the weapon and the capacity to use it, they don't have the ability to deliver it to you. So again, when you look at ability,
Yeah.
The-
Yeah,
you know,
all
the-
the
the-
elements of, that
exactly.
make it deadly force. If we take away their ability to pursue us, we can then escape.
Exactly.
And I tell people all the time, the primary element of self-defense is to just cause enough dysfunction so that you can escape. And if we're doing that, cutting the quadricep or cutting any part on the arm, no, like you said, defanging the snake, we're taking away their ability to attack us.
Exactly. You want to disable the threat. You want to eliminate the lethal threat so you can keep yourself safe. And what you have to look at is the attributes of the knife, how the knife does that most effectively, and especially the small knives that we can carry legally today.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it, Kevin.
I'm Kevin Michalowski, editor of Concealed Carry Magazine. If you like these videos, please share them with all your friends. And remember to subscribe to our page. We'll give you more great information every week.